What should they do?
Look, I'm fine if they go with Trey Lance or Mac Jones here. I think really what it is, it's a matter of expectation as far as how quickly do you want your young quarterback to play. If you want him to play right away, I think it's no secret that Mac Jones, given what he was exposed to in Alabama, will be ready to play much sooner. And if you really are going to hold on to Jimmy Garoppolo and you want to give the young quarterback time, then take Trey Lance. I think his upside is unlimited in this situation. So I think they would be fine going with either one of these two young men.
Like it. Meanwhile, in a lot of ways, this is the pivotal pick. Booger, what should the Falcons do?
Greeny, take a quarterback. I would say take Kyle Pitts and take the skill position player if this team holistically was ready to win, but they're not. Their defense is not very good, and so what good is it going to do for you to draft a skill position player and have a high-profile offense like we saw the Cowboys have, and your defense stink? You're still not going to win any games. So if you're Atlanta and your defense is not ready, take the quarterback and build around Trey Lance or whoever you take.
That would create an incredibly interesting scenario. Meanwhile, Mel, the Bengals are at 5. What should they do?
Most fascinating team, one of the most fascinating in the top 10 is the Bengals because of the options, Greeny. It could be Jamar Chase, Burrow's targeted LSU, maybe Kyle Pitts, but I'm taking Penei Sewell to protect Joe Burrow, the elite left tackle who would kick inside to guard as a rookie, but ultimately be a great bookend. Then I'm going De'Ami Brown, wide receiver, North Carolina in the second. So take advantage of the depth at wide receiver, get run one in round 2.
And guess what, Mel? You are 100% right. We did this essay yesterday. I was delighted at the reaction this got on social media because if you define hit rate as the percentage of time a first-round pick signs a second contract with his team, offensive linemen are a great bet, the best in the sport. Wide receivers are a terrible bet, the worst in the sport. 1 out of every 4 sign a second contract with the team. Hence, 3 out of every 4 do not. And again, I did this essay on the air yesterday expecting it to get very little attention because it's not a very sexy topic, and it went crazy on social because people are that kind of into this. I'm trying to read your face, Booger. If you're taking the option, if I give you the option, Penei Sewell, Rashawn Slater, the offensive lineman who feels like a lock. On the other side, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, the star receivers. Which way do you go?
Greeny, I'm going to go with the offensive line. But think about this, Greeny. If I gave you $1 million, are you going to buy a house first or a car? Now, I know you're kind of flashy, so maybe you go get a car, but I'm going to get a house. I'm going to get a foundation. I'm going to get something that's stable, Greeny. So if you're one of these teams and you have the franchise quarterback, get the left tackle. The lasting image in my mind is watching Joe Burrow with his knee going the other way. So whichever one of these guys that you have rated higher, whether it's Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater, take them. Put them at left tackle, guard. I don't care where you put them. Put them on the offensive line, and you protect your franchise quarterback. You build a foundation, and you take advantage of a draft that is so deep at wide receiver, you come back and get another one later.
Yeah, and the depth, year in and year out, that might vary, but the numbers remain constant. Lewis, as one who has been in these rooms having these conversations, what is your perspective on this? The disparity there is enormous between the general success rate of the lineman versus the general success rate of the wide receiver in round 1.
Yeah, look, Brainy, I think if you did the exercise, which we have done in front offices before, and you were really and you prioritized the positions 1 through 22 offensively and defensively, I think the vast majority of people would put offensive tackle, whether it be left or right, depending upon if you have a right-handed or left-handed quarterback, they put offensive tackle above wide receiver when you're ranking them 1 through 22. So I think if you have guys who are graded very, very similarly, you would obviously default to the offensive lineman, even if you were just doing an objective exercise of how to build a football team. I think subjectively and common sense-wise, when we understand that you should probably build your football team inside out and build it front to back. I say it all the time. It's funny because even people around here in my house, they laugh at me for constantly saying that, yeah, Dad, we know inside out, front to back. That's how you build football teams. I think it just makes sense. It makes sense that that's where you have to go because quarterbacks, we saw it in the Super Bowl. If you need any more evidence, just look at the Super Bowl from just this past year and you ask Patrick Mahomes this, hey, look, if you had your choice, would you want a left tackle who's going to keep you from having to run around like you were down there in Tampa Bay, or would you want another one of these flashy wide receivers? He would tell you, please protect me. Please don't have me have to play the football game like that. So really, it's a no-brainer regardless of the statistics. That's how you have to take care of it. You have to get big men. There aren't a whole lot of them, like Penei Sewell and Rashawn Slater walking around on earth anyway. Make sure you get one of those guys in your locker room.
It's the perfect example. In the Super Bowl, Tom Brady was pressured 4 times. Patrick Mahomes, a record 29 times. He had no fighting chance in that game. Mel, I'm sure a lot of people then would like to hear you answer this. From a depth perspective, offensive line versus wide receiver, taking your preference for the position out of the equation, where do we see them? How deep are those positions in this draft, which begins a week from tonight?
It's tricky, Greeny, because at offensive tackle, you got some left tackle prospects, you have some right tackle prospects. Some guys are going to kick inside to guard. So that left tackle position, even late first round, who's the right guy that's going to be there? Maybe nobody. And in the second round, same thing. Is the right guy going to drop to you? So you got to be really careful if you want a specific left tackle, right tackle, guard. Wide receiver, you got a ton of slots, a ton of outside guys, and a ton of guys who played slot and outside. So wide receiver is the best bet to find a player that's really good, whether it's a second, third, fourth, fifth round. You're going to find receivers in this draft, very plentiful, both slot and wide.
Guys who are running in the 4.3s are everywhere you look in this draft. So, yes, that is much easier to find. Okay, everyone, you're going to enjoy this. Booger and Lewis, just put your feet up. You're going to have fun with this. Because it is time for something that we call Make Mel Mad. Because we discovered on this program a few months ago, there's nothing more fun than when Mel is mad. And so I'm going to try and do that by just, I always feel like this is cheating. It's too easy. But as I have done all my research for this draft next week, Mel, I have come to the following conclusion. There are not 1, not 2, but 3 running backs that should go in round 1 next Thursday night in this draft, in this order: Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, and then Javonte Williams from North Carolina. Mel, what do you think?
I was smiling, Grady, because I knew you were going to tick me off, and I love to get fired up about something. And you know, so I knew you were going to bring something crazy to the table here. Running backs in the first round, I don't get it. History tells us you can find them from the second round on. History tells us why take one in the first round. You don't need to. Look at the teams that win big in the NFL. Was it a first round running back that they drafted, that keyed that Super Bowl win or that run through the playoffs? No. And I think when you look at Najee Harris and Travis Etienne and Javonte Williams, are they as good as J.K. Dobbins, Jonathan Taylor, and DeAndre Swift last year? I can say no, they're not. And all those guys went in the second round. They had really good rookie years, but they were not first-round picks. Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 32 to Kansas City was the only first-round pick. No. Mistake. 3 in a row there, Greeny, if you take a running back in round 1. But early second round, Jacksonville, the Jets, Atlanta, Miami, in the second, that sweet spot for running backs, round 2, that's where you start pulling the trigger on a running back.
Boy, am I hoping this happens next Thursday night, guys. As I bring Lewis and Booger back into the conversation here, I just hope it happens just to see Mel's reaction. But let me make my case, and I'm going to get into this a little more on radio. But do I have Lewis still? I'd like to bring Lewis in on this thought.
I'm here.
Here's my belief, and I hate saying this because it's so totally unfair to them. But I believe you take the running back in the first round because you get the 5th year, and then you don't ever, under any circumstances, consider giving the running back a second contract. The lot in life of a running back is to get drafted, to get used up, and then to be moved on from. But if you look at early in their careers, the impacts that Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, guys like that can have immediately on teams, if they're that kind of special, I do think it is worth the first-round pick. The mistake people make is when they sign them to the second contract. That's where it almost always runs into a brick wall. Lewis, what do you think?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think when you're talking about unique players, I think that's the key. Is the guy unique? Is the guy have some kind of ability that really you feel as though when you look at the history of running backs, he brings something to the table that other running backs just simply have not. And look, when Ezekiel Elliott came out, there were many who believed his ability to affect all 3 downs, both run and pass, was something that was unique. So I understood why Dallas took him. But I don't think the running backs in this class really affect the game on all 3 downs to that degree. So I'm with Mel in this case. I think it's case by case. I don't think overall you can say that no running back deserves to go in the first round. I think it is an individualized type of thing. I think they can have an immediate impact. I do agree you make mistakes when you sign them to second contracts, especially if they have a lot of tread on their tires. Is this a case by case situation?
What do you think, Bug?
Yeah, when you look at a guy who's a pure running back, but what I would tell Mel is don't think about him as a running back. Think about whoever it is as a weapon, somebody that's going to carry the football and also catch 80 or 90 balls. You talk about Kyle Pitts, that he's one of one. And I'm not saying that there's one in this draft, but if there's a running back that comes along that is a weapon, a guy that is a 3-down player like Lewis is talking about, a guy that can catch you 70 or 80, 90 balls,